Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 653, 653, January the 5th, 2019. Saturday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Kind of a slow news day today, but let's go ahead and get to some things and see what we can find out. Well, we had a great jobs report today. President Trump's obviously doing a fantastic job in the economy, and everybody knows it. And that's why he's probably going to be reelected, unless the deep state is successful in taking him out in a coup. But let's go ahead and talk about the 312,000 jobs that were added. Not to mention, look at this wage growth. 3.2% in wage growth. 3.2% in wage growth. I literally cannot remember wage growth numbers anywhere out of the tenths of a percent. And they've actually been sliding, slipping, losing for decades. And to see a number like 3.2% of wage growth, it literally within 2 years, even less than that, since Trump has really put in his economic tax plan, and all he's doing with cutting regulations and all the rest, trade deals and things and such. These are all what's contributing to the wage growth. And, you know, we haven't seen wage growth in this country in decades. And now we're seeing like 3.2%. That's absolutely extraordinary. And to have a jobs number like we're seeing, and, you know, it's really weird because we're watching what's going on Wall Street, and it's up and down. It's 700 points up, 1,000 points down, 800 points up, 200 points down. It's just every day. It's chaos in the markets. And what you can see, which is extraordinary, is for the first time in that I can remember, probably in my lifetime that I've been watching this stuff closely, you're seeing real success. You're seeing real growth on Main Street. You're really seeing actual growth within the economy, and it's not just territorial, regional. It's not just, you know, the West Coast with the tech boom, or it's not just, you know, the big urban cities with the huge tax base. It's all across the country is where this is happening, and it's happening in many different areas of the economy. And this is the only way that you could see this type of wage growth. But what we're seeing for the first time that I can think of is Wall Street is sucking wind while Main Street is kicking ass. Main Street's kicking ass, and Wall Street is taking it on the chin. That's extraordinary. Haven't seen that before. You have to give congratulations to Trump and the Republicans who did support him on taxes, who have been supportive on the trade, even though they probably weren't terribly happy about it in the beginning. They're starting to come around. So there's a lot of good things happening. And typically speaking, when a president has a good economy, he gets reelected every time. The only thing that could prevent Trump from being reelected is if they are successful at the coup. And they will be if he doesn't fight back. Gotta hope he has a plan for that. But anyway, great job numbers, great numbers on wage growth, and it's just extraordinary to watch this economy perform the way it is. Well, the first Muslim congresswoman is of course, a demo-commie. Her name is Rashida Tlaib. She was caught on video night before last. I guess the night that the Democrats took over the Congress. She went to a little celebration party where she made the comment that, yes, we're going to go in there and impeach the mother effer, referring to Trump. They're going to go in there and impeach the mother effer. She's the first Muslim congresswoman, and of course she is a demo-commie. And she's also the reason that they changed the no headgear rule in the Congress. It's so that the Democrats can display her coming up to the podium on the floor of the House of Representatives wearing a hijab. That's the whole point of it. They should kick her ass out of the Congress just as fast as she got there. There should be a recall election immediately. That's just not something you say. I mean, this is just, and it's bad politics. It's bad politics. And, you know, I actually believe in the months to come, we are going to come to understand that the worst thing that happened to the Democrats in 2018 was winning back the House. They would have been better off to stay in the opposition, because now they're actually in charge. And it's only going to highlight their incompetency, and it's only going to highlight the fact that the Democratic Party has pretty much been hijacked or taken over by the extreme far left. The communists have taken over the Democratic Party. And Pelosi is going to try to tone these people down, but it's not going to work. They feel empowered. And she is going to have to play into them to a certain extent, because that's where the energy in the Democratic Party is right now. It's in the communist element of the Democratic Party. And Nancy Pelosi is in a very, very tough position, and she is going to be exposed. Not only is she pretty incompetent, not only is she, politically not as nearly as astute as she used to be, she certainly has never dealt with someone like Trump before, and her party is now so far to the left of mainstream America that she's almost got an impossible task. Even if she was highly capable, it would be nearly impossible to pull off what she has to do. And so I'm predicting it's going to be a very disastrous experience for the Democrats, for Nancy Pelosi, and they're going to regret winning the midterms in 2018. They're going to regret winning the House, because it's only exposing them. Exposing all of their warts, of which there are many, many warts, and they're all being exposed. They're going to regret winning the House in the midterms, 2018. Trump gave a press conference in the Rose Garden today, where he said he's willing to keep government shutdown for months or years until he gets the wall funding. Very well done. You notice the last 2 days they really have upped their PR game. He's now gone out and he had a major cabinet meeting yesterday where he spent quite a bit of time talking about the issue. He had this Rose Garden ceremony today, and so I can only think that maybe someone around Trump saw one of my videos, and maybe they say, hey man, this dude on YouTube's right. You know, we need to have a serious PR campaign, because this will all be about the PR battle. We have to win this PR battle. We've already won the issue. It's not a question of whether or not you're going to win on the issue. The majority of people in this country, the polls are everywhere, even coming from CNN polls, MSNBC polls, other polls, New York Times polls. The majority of people, like 59, 60, 60% or so, support some sort of border wall, border security, and immigration reform. The majority of people. It's a winning issue for Trump and Republicans. That's why he should never back down from the $5 billion. And he also shouldn't go and use the military money now. Now, before the shutdown, that's what he might have done. That would have been a bold move. Or done it some other way. But since they've gone this route for the shutdown showdown, at that point, you don't budge. Especially when you are right on the issue. This is a winning position for Trump and the Republicans on this issue. And here's why. Normally, when you have these government shutdowns, it's over the budget. It's over the budget, which means there's many, many, many items that people are arguing over. And so they can use all sorts of semantics to try to confuse the issue and muddy the water, so people really don't know exactly what the specific problems are with the issue. They're just frustrated that this chaos or this problems are going on in Washington with the shutdown or whatever. But with this issue, it's very different. With this shutdown, it's very different, because this shutdown is about one specific focus on one issue: immigration. Whether we should secure the border, how we should secure the border. And everyone knows, well, just about everyone with common sense, not the demo commies. But I'm talking about normal people, which most people in the country are. Normal voters across the country understand that when they go to work in the morning, leave the house, they lock their damn door. When they get to work, then they get out of their car, they lock the door. If they have an office and they have important papers or documents or devices, they have a locked door. Or if there's other people in the office, they have locked drawers in their desk. People secure things that are valuable to them. You secure your valuables and you defend and protect your life. People practice personal security every day by just being aware of their surroundings. They drive through a bad part of town, they make sure the doors are locked. They look around and they make sure they're aware of who's around them. People naturally, it's a natural inclination to practice personal security. You almost don't even have to think about it. Your gut tells you to do it. People understand this issue. It's not a complicated issue. It's about, and they're seeing the caravan. Then we had this murder out in California with this cop who got shot by an illegal alien, and we know the problems he's had. This is a big-time winning issue because it's an easy issue for people to understand. It's not like most other shutdowns over budgets and things like that. This is specifically about whether or not Trump's going to get the money to defend the southern border. And the majority of people in this country know he's right. And they understand that what they see from the Democrats is pure politics, and they don't like it. I'm telling you, if the Republicans hold firm, whether this is weeks or months, and I don't think it'll take months, because it won't take long for the Democrats to look at their own internal polling. They do a lot of internal polling. They will eventually see enough internal polling to show that here in a week or 2 or 3 or however long it is, that they are losing on this issue. They'll realize it is a loser, and they're going to have to come and cut a deal and give Trump the money for his wall. Boom. And from that point on, it's only going to go downhill for Pelosi and the Democrats. Because when they cave, and they will be forced to, if the Republicans and Trump play this the proper way, which is stay firm, don't budge an inch, keep reminding people every day, have press conferences, show felonies being committed by illegals, show the problems happening on the border, show that the fact that there's another caravan forming already in South America and they're headed this way. Keep hammering on the common sense part of the issue. Make sure that every day you've got a PR strategy every day to fight this, to wage this PR battle, and the Republicans, Trump will win this big time. And when they force Pelosi and Schumer, particularly Schumer at this point, well now it's Pelosi and Schumer, because now the old bill's useless because they have a new Congress. So both Pelosi and Schumer are going to have to come up with money for the wall. And if they don't, they're going to pay a heavy political price. And at some point, they have to cut their losses, suck it up, and lick their wounds, and accept a defeat. And that's going to set the stage for one defeat after another. It's going to cause chaos within the party, a lot of finger pointing on who botched this so bad, how did this all go wrong, why did we pick this fight to have, we never should have picked this fight. Hell, we knew that the polls were against us before we started this fight. Who decided it would be a good idea to have this fight? Believe me, this is going to turn Democrats against Democrats. You're going to have the far left wing and the leftist commie activists attacking Pelosi and Schumer for caving. You're going to have the more center Democrats who live in purple states or in red states or who worried about re-election in 2 years are going to have to say, hey, you're forcing us to go out and defend this position. It's indefensible. You're killing us for 2020. Believe me, I'm telling you, as bad as things are with the deep state coup and everything else that's going on, the worst thing that happened to the Democrats was to win the midterms, win the House. And they got Nancy Pelosi, Speaker, and she's now got 95 commies, literally commies, that she has to try to somehow find common ground with, and it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Stay in the fight, Mr. President, and make sure that every day you come out with some sort of a PR statement, like you've done the last 2 days. You got to do it every day. Every day, come out and highlight something else. Educate people on the border again about something. Just stay in that fight. Keep up the PR. Don't budge an inch. You will win this fight, whether it takes weeks or months. And I don't think it'll take that long, because the Democrats do internal polling. And eventually they'll realize this is a loser, and it's only getting worse. At some point, we got to suck it up, cut a deal, fund that wall. That's what's going to happen. As long as Trump and Republicans stay firm, don't give an inch, and have a good PR strategy every day. Mark my words. We also have a story today. It's pointing out now, they use the term blue dog Democrats. I didn't know there was any blue dog Democrats left. I thought those guys were gone in the by late 80s, early 90s. I don't think there were. By early 90s, there really were no blue dog Democrats left. So I don't know what they're talking about, blue dog Democrats, but I guess what they mean is the ones who are not full-blown communists. So now they are the Blue Dog Democrats. But used to be there was a group called the Blue Dog Democrats. They were actually pretty conservative Southern Democrats. They're gone. They don't exist. So now, I guess you have the liberal Democrats and the communists, the real crazy wacko ones. So now just the basic run-of-the-mill leftist is what they consider a blue dog. So we'll go ahead and use that term because it's a term that's used in the news article. They're saying that blue dog Democrats are getting nervous about being anti-business, and they don't like the perception of anti-business, and this new Green Deal is very anti-business. Exactly. And, you would think, Obama, wasn't that a huge part of his 8 years as president? He always talked about he was going to have this new Green Deal or this new green economy. It never happened. It never happened because there's no such thing as a new green economy. You see, there's a lot of people who, this whole issue of environmentalism, people ask me, what about the environment? You an environmentalist, blah, blah, blah. And if you say, no, I'm not an environmentalist, well, then you hate the environment. You don't care. You want to pollute the world with fossil fuels, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. But, I consider myself a conservationist. A conservationist. Not an environmentalist. A conservationist. I believe that man and nature walk hand in hand. And that we want to protect our environment, but we exist in this environment, and there's a reason we have cows, there's a reason that we have pigs, there's a reason we have sheep, there's a reason we have chickens, there's a reason we have fish, there's a reason we have all these things, the reason why we have forests, the reason why we have rivers, lakes, and streams and oceans. All these things exist as part of our environment, but you can utilize the resources that we have in the environment, but you practice not destroying those resources, but you practice as a conserving those resources. You're a conservationist. So I consider myself a conservationist, not an environmentalist. While I do believe in protecting the environment, I don't believe that we should all go back to riding ponies, heating by candles, and horse and buggy and all this kind of stuff. I just I can't buy into any of that. And people don't believe in hunting. They don't understand conservation type policies to coexist in the environment. They just don't really get it. But anyway, the point of this article is that this new Green Deal that they're pitching in the House, and that Nancy Pelosi's actually allowed them to have their own special group to advance this agenda, is a killer. It's a business killer. And everyone knows it. Again, as I said, the Democrats are going to regret that they won the House, because it's going to expose their extreme left-wing agenda. And it's the only agenda they can move, because it's the only agenda they can get Democrats to vote for, is a far left-wing agenda, which is not acceptable to the majority of the people in the country and will never make it through the Senate or will never be signed into law by the president. All it's going to do is showcase how far left, and it'll showcase and highlight the far left-wing agenda of the Democrats, which is going to cost them bigly in 2020. The person who wrote that article is absolutely correct. And yes, those Democrats, I don't consider them blue dogs, but yes, the more centrist Democrats or what have you, yes, of course, this Green New Deal is extremely anti-business and is going to cost them seats in 2020. No question about it. A federal judge has extended Mueller's grand jury for another 6 months. What have I been saying? For the past couple months, people have been reporting, Mueller investigation just about to wrap up. Yeah, Giuliani's obviously cut a deal, and they've cut a deal, and all Trump has to do is answer these written questions, and that'll just about wrap it up. Mueller just needs to get the answers to these questions, and he's going to wrap it all up right after the first of the year. He's going to put out his report, and it'll all be done. Bullshit. And I called bullshit on this 2 months ago. Yeah, he'll issue a report, but it won't be a final report. It will be an interim report. The midterm. The halfway point. When is Mueller going to end his investigation? As I said, he'll end his investigation when Trump is gone. Mueller cannot end his investigation. If Mueller ends his investigation, then it's over, and therefore he can no longer protect the evidence which will get him and all his friends indicted. Trump will then be free to direct the appointment of a special counsel to investigate all the crimes, and Mueller won't be able to say, oh, sorry, you can't look at this evidence. He won't be able to tell Horowitz, nope, sorry, you can't see this evidence. He won't be able to tell members of Congress, oh, you can't see this evidence. He won't be able to say to, some attorney, Huber or someone else, oh, sorry, you can't see this evidence. It interferes with my investigation. He won't be able to do that anymore. Uncle Bob must continue the investigation until Trump is gone. Must continue the investigation until Trump is gone. I said when we were told, oh yeah, well, Trump's all he has to do is answer these written questions, and that's all Uncle Bob needs, and he'll take a look at that, and then he'll wrap it up and write his final report, and it'll all be over probably sometime after the first of the year. Bullshit! I called bullshit on that 2 months ago. Been saying it every day. Uncle Bob is not going away. He can't. And even if he runs out of witnesses to harass, even if his pressure is put on him by Whitaker or Barr or anyone else, he's simply going to pass the investigation on to Congress, who now, the Democrats in the House of Representatives. And he's going to kick a bunch of stuff over to the Southern District of New York, where they can continue investigating Trump and his kids. And there'll be investigations ongoing, and that will, again, they'll use that to say, I'm sorry, but you can't look at this information, this evidence, because we're currently holding that evidence as part of our investigation. Sorry. This is why Uncle Bob needs to be fired, along with Rodenstein. Fire them both. Fire Rodenstein, fire Mueller, and appoint a special counsel. Period. And let the chips fall where they may. Uncle Bob is not going away. And if you let him hang around, he'll eventually put the noose around your neck. Let him hang around. See what happens. So the judge has extended Mueller's grand jury for another 6 months. 23-person grand jury seated in Washington, D.C. Do you guys remember looking at the post-2016 election results and seeing what the percentage was of people who voted Democrat in the District of Columbia in 2016? 95%. 95% of Washington, D.C. residents voted Democrat in 2016. 95%. That's where the jury came from. Fire Rodenstein, fire Mueller, and appoint a special counsel to investigate the Spygate criminal conspiracy. I've been saying it. I'll continue to say it. That's the solution. Let the chips fall where they may. Ocasio-Cortez, Marty Feldman eyes, Ocasio-Cortez is now calling for a 60 to 70% tax rate. She's also comparing herself to Lincoln and Roosevelt. I don't know what she could possibly have anything in common with Abraham Lincoln. I'm not sure what the similarities there would be. Roosevelt, well, he was a commie, but he was a lot smarter than Ocasio-Cortez. He never came out and said he's a commie. But anyway, she's nuts. 60 to 70% tax rate. Well, in other words, like some small European country. In other words, it will not work here. It really doesn't work very well there. Has she paid attention to Europe? Does she know what's going on in Europe? That's what they got, 60 to 70% tax rate. They are in a massive global recession. They have been for decades. They haven't had any real growth in in Europe and other than Germany. And the UK has had a couple of good quarters, a couple of good years. But the majority of the countries in the EU are massively struggling. That's why they're all turning to populism and nationalism and all sorts of other isms. Because socialism has failed, as it always does. Because eventually you run out of other people's money. But this is what Ocasio-Cortez is calling for, essentially. She wants a $4 trillion Medicare for all, and she wants a 70% tax rate to pay for it. Man, oh man. Let's pray to God that people who think like her never get control of this country. We also have the Democrats, in addition to initiating impeachment, articles of impeachment, putting up a bill to fund the government without the border wall, which they know will never fly, and all the other stupid things they did in their first 2 days being in charge. Add another stupid thing that they did in the first 2 days in charge. They've introduced a bill to eliminate the Electoral College. Of course, I did an entire video, pretty much an entire video, on the Electoral College. The history of it, why we have it, and the whole 9 yards. I'm not going to go through it again. But it's a stupid idea. It will never work. It will lead to the breakup of the country. That's what it would lead to, in very short order, less than 20 years. If you eliminate the Electoral College, in less than 20 years, the United States will cease to exist. It will be broken up into 3, 4, 5 regions. It will completely bust apart. You could never have a country like the United States succeed on the popular vote. That's why our founding fathers had to create the Electoral College. They never would have got the federal Constitution signed into law had they not put in the Electoral College. That's what allowed all these small states to sign up. It's what gave them the hope of equal representation. Without it, you would have Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and Miami pretty much deciding everything for the rest of the country. How long do you think that would last? Not long. What a stupid idea. But of course, look where it's coming from. There's a lot of talk that Jim Webb could be the next defense secretary. That's actually a very good move, I think. I don't love Jim Webb, but you could do a lot worse. Now, Jim Webb used to be a Democrat. He ran for the Senate as a Democrat, but he left the Democratic Party because they went too far left. He's a highly decorated former Marine, was blown up by a grenade in Vietnam, still has metal shrapnel on his body. He's got the Navy Cross, he's got the Purple Heart, he's got every award you can possibly get for bravery and valor. Very courageous man, very honest guy, very straight shooter, very common sense foreign policy. I've generally agreed with Jim Webb's foreign policy. He's what you consider pretty much, I'd say he's a non-interventionist. I'd put him in that category. He was opposed to the war in Iraq. He was opposed to any lengthy stay in Afghanistan. He was opposed to the Iran deal. So he lines up a lot with Trump on a lot of foreign policy issues, and I think he's probably would be opposed to our occupation in Syria, and certainly it would be opposed to what happened in Libya. He certainly would be opposed to overthrowing Bashar al-Assad. He's not into regime change and nation building. Two things he doesn't support. He would be a very, very good, I think would be a very, very good Secretary of Defense, and he's generally viewed as a moderate sort of Democrat. He's generally viewed as a moderate to conservative Democrat, even though I think he's no longer officially in the Democratic Party. He might be like an independent now. I don't think he's a Republican. But it's not a bad choice. It's not a bad choice at all. I would have no problem with Jim Webb to be the Defense Secretary. Theresa May's own party, the Tory party, I believe she's a part of, overwhelmingly is saying that they would prefer a no deal rather than the deal that she's trying to sell. And she's out there making every feverish pitch she can. She wrote a letter to the nation trying to persuade. It's just not working. No one's buying into it. It's a horrible, horrible deal that she wants him to sign on to save her bacon and her political career. It's over. She's done. It's just a matter of time. What a horrible deal. So it's going to be, I think, almost certainly a hard Brexit. There's nothing you can really do at this point to save it. It's too late in the game. And again, I mean, I've said this before. Yeah, I know they say, well, a hard Brexit could be chaos for the UK and this and that and the other thing. You know, I really don't think so. Yes, it will be a bumpy road initially after a hard Brexit, because a lot of things that should have been sorted out will not have been sorted out. But what it'll do, it'll force the issue. And private businesses in the UK and the customers that they deal with will be forced to sort it out on their own without the government. And that's very good. You give it a few months. Yes, there'll be a bumpy road for maybe 6 months or so, maybe a year. But these people in the UK, these business people and their customers will find a way to get it sorted out for themselves, and they'll get the problem solved. Short-term bumpy road for the UK. Long-term, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, they'll be much, much better off, even though they'll have a hard Brexit. But when you look at the EU, it's the EU that's going to suffer both short-term and long-term damage from the UK leaving the EU. And they don't seem to realize it. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. It's going to be a wild year, man. Wild year, especially in Europe. Well, of course, yesterday I told you how happy that we all should be that Paul Big Ears Eddie Munster Ryan was leaving office. Well, today we got the poll, because they usually take a poll for a speaker's last day in office, same with the president or whatever. Paul Ryan left office as speaker with a 12% approval rating. 12%. That's good, because it shows you that a lot of people, Republicans I should say, Republicans or conservatives or libertarians, whatever, a lot of people support Trump. A lot of people know who the guy was who made sure that we ended up in this border wall fight that we're in now, that was never put in any budget before, even though he promised it, why there was no investigation into the Spygate conspiracy that could go forward, why Rodenstein and Mueller were being protected, and all this stuff falls on Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan. Big Ears, Eddie Munster, Paul Ryan. Thank God he's gone. Unfortunately, that son of a bitch will be back in 2024. 2024, he'll be back. Don't forget. Don't be fooled by Big Ears Eddie Munster Ryan. Remember what he did as Speaker. Despicable. Emmanuel Macron is now finally putting the foot down. His government is now saying the Yellow Vests are agitators and that they're trying to topple the government, and now they're going to crack down on them. They're not going to tolerate it anymore. They're going to put down the protest. That will only cause the protest to grow even larger. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get worse for Macron. His presidency has failed now. I don't know how much longer he can last. But it's funny because just, 9 months ago, we were told he was the great savior of Europe, the great new leader of Europe. He was showing all the other European leaders how it's done. He was making snide comments to Trump during the World War I celebration about nationalism and populism, not being patriotic and all this kind of stuff, getting on Trump's case for not signing on to the green energy stuff. Now it's all turned on him and he looks like a dope. The media doesn't want to talk about the immigration issue because I know it's a loser. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye.